Welcome to our Curious Amalgam, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Antitrust Law section of the American Bar Association. Our Curious Amalgam explores the fascinating and increasingly overlapping world of competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law. Each week, we bring you leading global experts on the most compelling issues of the day. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to our Curious Amalgam. My name is Alicia Downey, and the title of today's program is Who's Going to the 2023 Spring Meeting? A sneak preview with the co-chairs. The ABA Antitrust Law Section's Spring Meeting is the largest annual gathering of competition, consumer protection, and data privacy lawyers, academics, economists, enforcers, journalists, and students from around the world. Today, we are joined by the Spring Meeting co-chairs, Doug Tween and Sheila Adams, for the inside scoop on what's ahead for this year's meeting in Washington, D.C. My co-host today is Kayla Odom. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, Alicia.
Kayla, would you like to introduce our guests and kick off the conversation?
It would be my pleasure. Doug Tween is a partner at Linklaters in the Antitrust and Foreign Investment Group and is the head of the U.S. Government Enforcement and Cartel Practice. Sheila Adams is a partner at Davis Polk in the Antitrust and Competition Group, where her practice focuses on antitrust investigations, litigation, and mergers and acquisitions. Doug and Sheila are both longtime members and leaders in the ABA Antitrust Law section, serving this year as the Spring Meeting co-chairs. Doug, Sheila, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Kayla, Alicia. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to be here. Thank you both.
So let's learn about the meeting. Can you give us an overview of Spring Meeting logistics? When is it? Where is it? How do you register?
Absolutely. So the Spring Meeting this year will be March 29th to March 31st in D.C. At the Marriott Marquis Hotel. It'll take place at the hotel. It's also one of the conference hotels. There are several in the hotel stays that you can book. Early registration for Spring Meeting concludes on February 5th. So in order to save $200 on your registration fees, you should aim to register by that date. You can cancel by March 7th and register up until any point, including the end of the Spring Meeting on March 31st. The hotel room cutoff to make a reservation under one of the blocks is February 28th. And all of this information is included on the conference website, which I understand will be shared. But it's ambar.org/ATSpring.
The new website is really excellent. It's a huge upgrade from a few years ago when it was always a struggle to register. Now it's really just one or two clicks. There's so much good information. You can go to it today and see how many people have already registered and everyone who is registered. As of today, we're up to 436 registrations, which is really pretty exciting for 2.5 months out from the meeting. Last year, we had 2,875 registrations, which post-COVID, we were really happy with. But pre-COVID, we were up to 3,400. And I think this year, we're really looking to break through that mark, and we're aiming for 3,500 attendees.
What are some new or updated features for this year's meeting?
So one, I will say we can't yet reveal. It's under consideration. So there may be some late-breaking new features at the Spring Meeting. So you'll have to come and see in person. But I think one thing that we started doing more recently are even pre-panels, so before the CLE panels start, we've been having really dynamic conversations amongst the members and attendees, diversity dialogues and other conversations so folks can get to know one another and talk about these important issues that are important to the section and important to our members. So you should keep an eye out for those types of programs in the morning. But I'm definitely looking forward to that in addition to the panels themselves, of course. I don't know, Doug, if you have anything else that you're looking forward to in that respect.
I mean, for me, Sheila, I would say our biggest focus this year has been on trying to hear from new voices. I don't know if the ABA tracks the statistics, but I am certain that we have more first-time speakers this year than ever before by a huge majority. And, we've really sought to get a diversity of viewpoints, both sort of from the measurable ethnicity and gender standpoint. We have a substantial majority of women speakers this year, probably for the first time again. And I think we have something like 35% speakers with ethnic diversity. So I think we really were looking for new voices. And we've also really tried to go outside of the antitrust bar to bring in other voices, other viewpoints, to really cast a very wide net to try to find speakers who most significantly will be interesting, but also will sort of bring new and different viewpoints to the meeting.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I have already registered and I can't wait to go. I've even bought my plane tickets, so I'm all set to go. The question I have, though, for both of you, Sheila and Doug, we'll start with Sheila. What are you most personally looking forward to?
So we get the question a lot of, is there a particular panel that you're looking forward to? And in this respect, and probably in this respect only, Doug and I are like parents. We love all of our panels equally. We have 70 panels at the spring meeting, and so we're looking forward to all of them. But I really look forward to the second year of an in-person meeting after, a couple of years where we were not able to do that. There was such an energy last year, and people were just really excited to be in person again. So I'm looking forward to seeing friends and colleagues across the bar and again in DC in a couple of months.
Doug, are you willing to pick a favorite?
There are a bunch I'm looking forward to. The chair showcase is always really interesting, and the chair, Tom Zich, is lining up an amazing lineup of speakers this year. Sheila is moderating Hot Topics, which is also always a great program, and the lineup of speakers that she's compiling is also really interesting. For my practice, I always enjoy the criminal cartel focused panels. Those are the most relevant to my practice. And there's been a lot of action in the last year that I'm really looking forward to hearing people's views on.
All right, that all sounds very good, but I think it wouldn't be a spring meeting without the parties and the networking receptions. Are you both looking forward to those? And what do you think are the best ways of taking the most advantage of those opportunities?
Alicia, absolutely. I tell all of the associates and junior lawyers that I work with that they really need to take advantage of the networking opportunities at the spring meeting. And so many of those happen outside of the meeting at the various parties and meetings and other events that are going on. I always look forward to those. I see so many people that I don't see the rest of the year. And it's so great to just bump into people and catch up. And really, to be able to do that is really exciting for me.
Totally agree. And I would recommend for anyone interested in doing sort of the crawl and hopping around to the different networking receptions. There will be a lot of overlap. A lot of them happen at the same time over the course of, a lot is jam-packed into those 3 days. So grab a friend and sort of jump around. I would suggest, start at the hotel. There are often receptions at the hotel, and then there are often others nearby venues, within walking distance from the hotel. So grab a friend and bring your business card and get ready to mingle.
One thing it's really important to keep in mind is that all of these parties are open to everyone. The DOJ and the FTC in particular have rules where they can only attend parties that are widely attended and that are open to all. And so, especially for junior lawyers who may not have the network yet, you can walk right into these parties. You don't need an invitation. Any of them are more than happy for anyone to attend.
I remember my first spring meeting, and the networking is just unlike any other conference. It's just on another level. And, it was very memorable for me, and something that's, a big part of the spring meeting for me. I've got a fun question. How many spring meetings have you attended?
For me, I would say It's in the
Oh,
20s.
wow.
It's definitely in the 20s. Yeah, low 20s, I would say.
I haven't counted. Probably not as many as Doug for probably some obvious reasons, but most of my years of practice, I've gone to the spring meeting, and so I'm looking forward to that again. 5 or 6, 7 years, something like that.
How about you, Kayla? How many have you been to so far?
I was trying to remember, but I couldn't exactly. I think it's like 3 or 4 times. So I'm relatively new to the spring meetings. What would you say is one piece of practical advice you can share for first-time attendees?
You will get a special, I think we're going to do this again this year, you'll get a special indication on your badge if you're a first-time attendee to the spring meeting, so others who are attending will know, and hopefully, and I think all of us in leadership will be looking out for you to say hello. But there are certain events specifically for first-time attendees. There's a reception that will take place during the course of the 3 days. So check out your agenda. It's very detailed, but in there, you should find reception specifically for you to meet other first-time attendees, and leadership from the Antitrust law section, will also be in attendance to welcome you into the meeting and to the 3 days. I would also say to coordinate with your organization. Many times you're not the only one attending, so just link up with someone else in your firm, and they'll be able to be a shepherd for you. That the first time I ever went to spring meeting, I sort of asked the more senior lawyers at my firm, what are the best receptions to go to, or where were they going? Were they going to the dinner and to head over together? So it feels like less isolating because there are a lot of people there, and you may feel lost, but grab a buddy from your firm or a law firm classmate of yours if no one from your firm is going, and you should feel it'll feel less big.
In addition to the reception and the other events, and Sheila's advice is great, there are coffee conversations every morning that include career conversations from 7:30 to 8:15 before the programming begins. And those are kind of informal, relatively small, and a good opportunity to talk to A, your peers, but also B, maybe some more experienced people who might have some great advice.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like even if you don't know anyone else who's going, there's plenty of ways to sort of find places where it's really easy to talk to people and everybody is welcoming to new members. So that's great to hear.
If I could just add my own 2 cents, because I've been to 25 plus spring meetings. It's getting up there, both as a young lawyer and now as a I'll call seasoned lawyer. Two words of advice for me. Number 1, comfortable shoes, and number 2, hang out in the bookstore if all else fails. I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but there's always at least baskets of candy lying around. It's comfortable places to sit, and even a fancy coffee bar.
Yeah, by the breakfast table too. It's another good spot.
Yes. So one other thing that we wanted to find out from Doug and Sheila is a little bit more about the behind the scenes process. What does it mean to be a co-chair of the spring meeting? How long have you signed up to do this ginormous task? And what exactly is involved? Doug, why don't you give us an overview?
Sure, Alicia. So co-chair of the spring meeting is a 3-year gig. I'm in my 2nd year. Last year, Brian Gruby was the co-chair. This year it's Sheila, and it's a 3-year gig for each of us. The logistics of it, as you would imagine, are huge. We have something like 70 programs, 350 speakers, 3,000 plus attendees. It's really a job that runs almost the entire year. Key date to keep in mind is that submissions for proposed programs are due at the end of August. I can't tell you how many great proposals we've gotten in October and November and December that we can't use because the agenda is long set. And so it's great for people to sort of be thinking about that end of August date for submissions of ideas.
And I would add to that our proposals come through our committees. And so, we receive more than fantastic proposals, but more than we can possibly put into the spring meeting by double. So we have to look at all of the proposals, look at who's been proposed as speakers, and then whittle that, call it 140 or 150 proposals down to the 68 to 70 proposals that end up being the panels at the spring meeting. So that's we're reading, what's current, what's timely, what's broad enough to gather, to galvanize interest, and then what's niche but really hot, and we have to have the right mix. And it's really an ongoing discussion. Doug and I have spent countless hours, along with Lisa Danzig and our YLR Estefania Torres Paya, over the past 6 months, multi-hour phone calls just to think through each of the panels, being thoughtful about who the speakers and their expertise. And it's a huge chessboard. So what happens is we have our fantastic sort of view of who should be the speakers. There are 5 speakers usually per panel, 70 panels, you do the math. And then we invite people, and then many people can't do it. And then we're constantly from the moment we invite people, really up until spring, we're coordinating calendars, we're finding replacements. It's an ongoing process. So once we get everything out the door, we're still working to find speakers, and we're working with the agencies, the FTC and DOJ, as well, on who we would like to invite from those agencies. So it's a very complex process.
So you mentioned a YLR. For people who don't know, that's the Young Lawyer Representative. And generally what the section does is pair a younger attorney or somebody newer in their career with each of the committees, including the spring meeting planning committee. So it's great that you get that input from newer attorneys because, of course, so many of them will be attending. You've got to gear panels to all different experience levels as well. Is that right? And what some people might not realize is, unlike a lot of conferences, people really do go to the panels. The rooms are not empty. They are packed. People go there not just for the continuing legal education credit, but they really do go to get substantive insight from the speakers that are selected. And I think it's really exciting that you're getting some new faces out there. I assume, though, we'll be hearing from top regulators. What are some of you don't need to name names if it's too soon, but what are the profiles, of typical spring meeting speakers? What are you looking for when you make those selections?
You are correct, Alicia, that there'll be a very good mix of, Doug mentioned the new faces, and also many of our, experienced practitioners, enforcers, people in the private bar, in-house and in government, including overseas. I think we have about 10% of our speakers who are from international law firms or agencies. And so our speakers range from heads of agencies, heads of the competition authorities around the world, to law firm partners and associates, counsel, as well as, like I said, in-house counsel. Lest we forget, as we should not, our economists and our economist colleagues as well. We have a number of folks participating in the panels. And so we look for expertise in the relevant issues, people who have if we know and try to determine who would be good speakers, and people who have written on certain topics, who have spoken maybe on those topics in the past. That's not a requirement, but it would be a factor. And we often are, people who are in leadership within the section also are certainly carefully considered as speakers. And there's no one trait that will make or break in terms of whether you're a speaker or not, but it's all these factors. And we're certainly considering as well the diversity of the panel, so that we get a good cross-section of views, as well as just demographic diversity on the panels.
Yeah, people always ask me, how can I speak at the spring meeting? And by far the best way is to submit a proposal that's interesting, timely, topical, and maybe a little different. Because while it's not a certainty, there is absolute presumption that the person who submits a panel is going to be a speaker on that panel. So the best way, by far, your highest chances are to submit a panel that's interesting and timely.
And I have one more question before we head into our end segment, and that is, all right, fast forward, It's the Friday afternoon of the spring meeting, and it's done. It's over. Everybody's leaving the hotel. What will you be doing? And perhaps it's going to Disney World. Perhaps it's something else. Sheila?
Sleeping.
Okay.
It's been a grueling but really interesting process, and I think by that point it will be definitely warranted to take some downtime and to reflect on the meeting, and I'm sure it will be a success, and to decompress a bit.
Doug, where will we find you on Friday afternoon?
Well, you'll find me heading home, because the next day I have to spend 10 hours drafting my fantasy baseball team.
Oh, okay. That's extremely important.
It's an all-day effort.
Okay, I've got one last question too. Do you have any particular spring meeting memory that you will never forget? Could be anything, any random thing that happened to you at spring meeting that just really sticks out, that you're like, wow.
I would say for me, one of the things that I've done at the spring meeting now for the last, I think, 12 or 13 years is to co-host a DOJ Antitrust Division Criminal Enforcement Alumni Cocktail Party that is open to everyone. So it's not limited to alumni, and it's very widely attended. And I remember coming up with that idea, and when the first year we put it together, we had no idea if anyone would show up or not. So it was a little nerve-wracking. We didn't have a formal space. We just sort of met on the balcony of the Washington Hotel, which is a beautiful rooftop view. And it overflowed. And so that was really kind of fun and exciting and interesting. And since then, that, for me personally, has become one of the highlights every year.
For me, last year, a selection of private firms, mine included Davis Polk, co-sponsored an inaugural Black antitrust lawyers reception. It was the first of its kind at the spring meeting. It's not just to be clear, it's not a bar antitrust law section, one of the receptions put on by the bar, but one of the many receptions that are organized by the private organizations during spring meeting. And it was a raging success. There was so much energy and excitement in that room. And so a lot of fellowship as well. And so we're hoping we can bring that back this year. But that was truly rewarding to meet so many folks, both Black antitrust lawyers and economists, but also many other folks. It was a very diverse collection of people, and that was a really exciting event last year at the spring meeting.
That's great. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's go make some more good memories. Well, before we let you go, we're going to ask you the question we ask every guest on our Curious Amalgam, because we are so curious. And we'd like each of you to tell us briefly, what is something interesting about yourself that is outside of your professional life? Let's start with Doug.
Okay, Alicia. I guess I would say before I went to law school, I was a singer in a punk rock band for a couple of years. And the highlight of our career was playing CBGBs a handful of times. So we never sort of got much out of New York, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm genuinely impressed. All right, Sheila, can you top that?
That'll be hard to top, although I now have an idea for entertainment at the spring meeting. For me, before law school and right after college, and actually during college, I've spent 2 different time periods in Brazil and became fluent in the language. I volunteered at a school in Maceió, in Brazil, after having studied abroad in Rio. So that's my little known secret, that I speak Portuguese.
That's impressive too. All right, I think you guys, it's a tie. The final segment of our program is a game we call The Curious Hat.
And now it's time for The Curious Hat!
The rules of the game are extremely simple. We will pose a surprise question to each of you that has been drawn from the virtual hat. Kayla, would you like to do the honors?
I would love to. Okay, guys, what is your favorite dessert?
Banana pudding.
Trifle.
I ask because isn't there a dessert reception at the spring meeting? Is there like a little secret dessert reception?
There definitely are, yes.
Yeah, after the dinner, there's a monstrous dessert display. So definitely check that out I think it would be on the Thursday.
All right. Well, I'm glad we saved the most important information for the end of the program. Do not miss the dessert reception. Do not miss the spring meeting. If you go, find Sheila and Doug. Give them a pat on the back for all of the hard work that they've put in. I know I'm really looking forward to seeing you both in person as well. Thank you both for coming to the virtual studio today. And I hope listeners will check out the episode website for all of the information and links you need to register for the 2023 Antitrust Law Spring Meeting.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of our Curious Amalgam, a competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law podcast. It is produced and shared around the globe by ABA's Antitrust Law section. The opinions expressed by the participants in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent their employer or other organizations. If you like what you heard or would like to become a member of the American Bar Association, please check out what the Antitrust section has to offer at ambar.org/antitrust. You can learn more about our podcast at ourcuriousamalgam.com. If you have comments, suggestions, or podcast ideas, please reach out to us at podcast@ourcuriousamalgam.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.